Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I, the one and only, Ray the Flying Squirrel here, and I'm Mighty the Armadillo here, welcome you all for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll present to you our third version of our Let's Play of Super Mario Bros. 3, except this time we're going on to the Game Boy Advance version as a remake. So because of this though, welcome to our Let's Play of Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3. So as you probably already know about the fact that we've already technically done Super Mario Bros. 3 twice, one in the forms of the NES version back in 2022, and early in 2023, I think it was in March actually, that basically we did tackle through the Super Nintendo version thanks to the Super Mario All-Stars version of the game, and here we are now onto the forms of nearly towards the end of 2023, which by the looks of all that stuff though, today's date is of course the 1st of November today, in this case in 2023 today. Naturally speaking though, about the fact the matter is though, after the events of whenever we did manage to take a break on doing some more Castlevania stuff, after the events of October month. So because of this though, since then about the fact that yesterday that the Halloween has already been finished, since during the forms of it yesterday, so we figured when I was able to actually go back into the forms of the Mario swing of things, except this time, as you can tell, we're now playing the Game Boy Advance version of Super Mario Bros. 3. So yeah, as you can see on screen, we actually stumbled across into ourselves not only Super Mario Bros. 3, but also with Mario Bros. As a classic remake, which I think that all obviously does that for the likes of not only for every single Super Mario Advance games, you know, with Super Mario Advance 1, alongside with Super Mario Advance 2, and Super Mario Advance 3, they obviously always included the Mario Bros. Game, including Mario Luigi Superstar Saga by the way, on the Game Boy Advance as well. So obviously we'll show off Mario Bros. Eventually though, so because of this though, the main focus of this particular playthrough is that we're obviously going to be going on to Super Mario Bros. 3 again for the third time, and I think this will actually be the third and final time we're going to be playing Super Mario Bros. 3 for reals. God knows until when Nintendo decides they're able to remake that game again, well, not for any time soon I don't think. So either way, let's dive right into Super Mario Advance 3 on the Game Boy Advance version. So, as you probably already know about the fact that the visual style for this particular version is actually very identical to Super Mario All-Stars on the Super Nintendo, except the noticeable differences this time is that obviously the sounds are a little bit more different and stuff like that, and on top of all that stuff though, well, relatively speaking, they're now able to actually include voice clips now. So because of this though, relatively speaking though, did you know about the fact that Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3 has recently become 20 years old recently? Well, because time flies, you know? Especially concerning about the fact that this game came out in 2003, alongside with the films of Piccolet's Big Movie, along with Piccolet's Big Game, Mario Party 5, Mario Kart Double Dash, and you probably named the rest of it. So as you can see, that we actually stumbled across into this unique feature in Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3. Well, it's only accessible and not only on the Wii U, but also on the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, and that's what appears to be the level card. However, we might as well show off level card until for later, because obviously we'll go for the entire main story campaign as always. So either way though, and similar to the forms of how it does it on the NES version, alongside with the Super Nintendo version of this playthrough, we're obviously once again going to be doing this as together. So meaning about the fact that, as you can see, we actually have a choice to able to choose either Mario alone or Mario and Luigi. So because of this though, obviously the focus of this Let's Play is obviously going to be two-player co-op thing once again, except there's no Game Boy Advance cable link for doing this, because as you can tell from the quality standpoint, obviously we're going to be playing the Wii U Virtual Console re-release version of the game, which is a bit unfortunate about the fact that you can no longer get this game anymore on the Wii U eShop download version, because you know everything else is dead at this rate. Although luckily though, you're still able to actually access this game by simply able to get the Nintendo Switch thanks to the forms of the expansion pack, so meaning about the fact that you'll not be missing that much. So either way, so obviously we'll go for the exactly the same worlds as before, Although, as you can see on the item inventory space, it now shows us 4 slots that we can able to interact with. So either way, unlike in the NES version and the Super Nintendo version, that basically does about the fact that it only shows one group of power-ups at a time for those inventory items. And also there's actually the R button shown up, which I think this actually functions the actual e-reader cards, although relatively speaking this is on the Wii U or the Nintendo Switch versions. Unfortunately though, the e-reader functionality will not work. So because of this though, actually we'll explain more details about the forms of the e-reader system in this particular version of the game until whenever it gets to the point, until whenever we dive right into the level card. So because of that, and also there's actually quite a few differences between the forms of multiple versions of Super Mario Bros. 3, I just realized. That you remember the forms in the NES version or the Super Nintendo version, if you just somehow managed able to bump into your opponent, basically you have a one-on-one competition between each other in the forms of in the Mario Bros. Segment. However though, in this version this time around, is that it kind of has the exact same feature as in the forms of Super Mario World, as far as I realized, is that you can able to actually share between lives or pass it around between each other when it comes to extra lives. So that's the only change I can think about it. So obviously about the fact that this is my turn to start with, so because of this though, yeah, just like in the forms of how it does it on the NES version, I'm going to be playing as Mario at first glance, and then as a result, Ray is going to be taking control of Luigi, just like in the forms of how it does it on the NES version. However, there's some key differences this time, is that we'll feel like we can do a combination of both between not only the main story, but if we get into the forms of the level card world, then we can able to actually take turns of which specific characters we're going to be selecting. Like for instance, in the main story mode, obviously Mighty's going to take control of Mario, and I'm going to be taking control of Luigi. As soon as we get into the forms of the level card, we're also able to actually switch things around a bit, ever since during the forms within the Super Nintendo version of Super Mario Bros. 3. So because of this, for instance, on the level card world, or in some cases World E, as to be exact, basically though, I'm going to be taking control of Mario, and then Mighty can take control of Luigi once we get into World E, so... And there's also another differences, as you can see, that rather than calling it cards, so instead it's now being replaced by panel, so... Yeah, it's kind of strange to be able to actually replace that particular word for something related to, it's kind of similar to that. Well, you know what I'm saying. So either way, now it's my turn to take on level 2. Seriously, I can't even believe this is the 3rd time playing Super Mario Bros. 3. And let me be honest with you guys, we honestly don't mind doing the another version of Super Mario Bros. 3 all over again, because let me tell you, this is one of the greatest 2D Mario games ever, along with Super Mario World. Although, I'm sure you probably already know of what is going on with the actual, the zoomed in screen at this point on this version. Also, I just realized that this particular bonus room's music sounds a little bit differently, because obviously they include some more music to the table, something like that. Well, it has been a very long while since we've actually last played Super Mario Bros. 3, since on the Super Nintendo version on the Super Mario All-Stars compilation. So, and of course, the rule still applies when it comes to the forms of the proceedings for this playthrough, is that obviously we still need to able to go through all of these worlds throughout the game, and relatively speaking, we're once again gonna skip the warp zones for the time being, until, as soon as we're able to completely done with World 8, we can pretty much gonna show you guys where the warp whistles are gonna be located. So because of that, now it's your turn, Mighty, to take on level 3. So obviously that we no longer have 2 controllers, so instead we have to share our Wii U gamepad to each other, or, to be more specifically, the Wii U Pro controller as we're gonna be currently using, because despite, you know, the Wii U gamepad's battery life is so stupidly low. So because of that though, because it doesn't seem to last for long. So either way. Oh yeah, speaking of the Wii U though, is that relatively speaking, we've only just got about 17 more days to go until the Wii U is eventually become 11 years old. So because of that though, yeah, time flies, you know. And also not to mention though about the fact the matter is though, I'm pretty sure it's possible, but relatively speaking, that Mario and Sonic at the Sochi 2014 Olympic Winter Games, since we're now on to November, that game is going to be an entire decade old, 10 years to be exact. So, despite the fact that nobody seemed able to care about the series anymore, just because of all that rehashed moments here and there, or especially noticeable about the fact that everything else is pretty much exactly the same between each other, at least as far as I'm aware. So, yeah, there's another differences between this version of the game compared to the forms of how it does it on the NES version and the Super Nintendo version. That basically though is about the fact that, well, aside from voice clips, as far as what Ray has already addressed that, but also about the fact that matter is though is about the fact that there is actually a point where you realize that the screen resolution has been zoomed in a little bit, so this means that once again that most of any other GB games or Game Boy Advance games usually just somehow, you know what I'm saying, that basically it gets like screen crunch. So yeah, don't expect things too much about it, especially after the events of whenever we did done our Let's Plays of Mega Man and Bass, and even worst of all, Sonic the Hedgehog Genesis for the Game Boy Advance. And once we get the forms of the other Super Mario Advance games in the future, because here's the thing, we were originally going to be able to actually tackle through Super Mario Advance 1 first, before we dive right into Super Mario Advance 4, but because this game usually celebrates the 20th anniversary of the entire Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3, well, mind you, about the fact the matter is though, because again, it's been a very long while since we've actually last played Super Mario Bros. 3 after all, since on the Super Nintendo version, as far as I realized, and on top of all that stuff, though, about the fact that, well, usually for the sake of the forms of the e-reader system, when it comes to the forms of this entire game, that basically, though, I think that particular feature, at least specifically in terms of cartridge versions of these games, well, it only exists in both the Japanese and the North American's release of the game. Because, unfortunately though, for those of you who live in the European countries, if you do manage to obtain the European cartridge of the game, there's no e-reader segments. So in some cases though, well, at least this visual right there, it looks a bit different this time, because not only does it zooms out a little bit, but also about the fact the matter is though, we no longer see the actual art design Mario sprite. So either way, oh jeez, we doing pretty bad luck, don't you think, when it comes to like getting one-ups and such. But don't worry though, until the later worlds though, we'll sure enough we're able to actually get some more extra lives eventually. So, and also for I've heard about the fact that on the Game Boy Advance version of Super Mario Bros. 3, for I've heard that the level design might change a little bit. Well, not significantly though, but I will point things out as soon as we're able to get into later stages to come, especially concerning about the fact that, well, we'll talk more details about that and during at some point in every Wednesdays and Fridays and Mondays essentially, because, well, unlike the forms of how it does it in you know, the NES version and alongside with the Super Nintendo version that is always uploads during the forms of, I would say, Tuesdays and Thursdays or something, but nowadays on Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3, that is going to be more accurately 3 days per week. So because of that, well, not for this week though, because obviously that, you know, in the middle of the forms of the Castlevania stuff, so either way. And also what makes this a bit different compared to the forms of how it does it on the previous 2 versions is that if you complete any tower levels, there's now a save feature. So because of that, similar to the forms of how it does it on the Super Nintendo version, then you can simply save as far as your desires. However though, if you manage to able to complete the tower level as what Mighty just already did done, basically it allows him to able to save that progress. And so plus the few forms of certain worlds throughout the game, and on top of that with the forms of some other stuff worth noting for. So that will obviously continue that tradition until specifically New Super Mario Bros. Comes into play, despite the fact that in New Super Mario Bros. That you don't able to actually access to a quick save system until New Super Mario Bros. Wii, or if I like to call it Super Mario Bros. 6, because obviously the New Super Mario Bros. Just feels a bit not so new anymore, just because we're now in 2023, so everything else will be pretty much old at this rate, especially concerning about the fact that I always attempt to call those New Super Mario Bros. Games into a different title, like New Super Mario Bros. Became Super Mario Bros. 5 to me, and New Super Mario Bros. Wii, Super Mario Bros. 6, and New Super Mario Bros. 2, well, despite the fact that it's basically a sequel to New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, but if I like to call it Super Mario Bros. 7, And New Super Mario Bros. U, I'm assuming I might as well call it Super Mario Bros. 8. At least to me anyway, so... Well, don't judge me on this, so... Alright, so now it's my turn to take on level 6. And also, if you couldn't tell already about the fact of the matter is, though, we do apologize about the fact that with all that, well, I don't know about you, because of how the fact that sometimes there are some technical problems during the forms of our laptop recently, so because of that, though, this is a perfect example of why this took so long, so either way. Oh, darn it, I was so close to get 3 Starman cards. Yeah, because of that, Koopa Troopa is getting your way. But, regardless of such though, you still got an extra life, so that's sure it's something. I just realized that you're actually up ahead of me when it comes to extra life so far. Well, it wasn't until whenever we get to World 2 and possibly onwards, because remember how last time I somehow dominated throughout the majority of not only the... Oh, I need that Fire Flower, because I surely do need it. But at least I got it anyway before I faced the black, so kudos to my skills. So, and I might as well go after the next item, or the first power-up in these Toad houses right here. And I got a Super Leaf. Ah, what? Because whenever I got to the first Toad house in the game, I somehow got myself a mushroom. So because of that, that was just rigged to me at the beginning. So either way, now it's your turn to able to, well, take on the first Airship Fortress level. So, and obviously most of those sprites are heavily borrowed from the likes of Super Mario All-Stars version, including some of these familiar transformations here and there as well. Like for instance that this king turned into a snake based off on the likes of Super Mario Bros. 2, aka Super Mario USA. So relatively speaking, everything else in the visuals presentation seems to be unchanged, aside from the fact that relatively speaking with all that screen crunch we have to deal with. And on top of that, well, remember the forms of the Super Nintendo version of this Let's Play? We do apologize for that particular photo sensitivity seizure reducing part during the forms of the, let's just say the tower levels, because I must be honest here, because of the actual emulation problem. Well, thankfully though, on the Game Boy Advance version, everything else calms down. So because of that though, no need for, well, seizure-reducing errors. So because of that, I must admit I apologize for this point, folks. But either way, and something's worth noting for about the fact that also during the forms of that time until like sometime in this month, that's relatively speaking, we'll explain more details about that whenever we get to World 2. So either way, gee, feels like you've almost rammed into the forms of Larry Koopa, didn't you? Well, despite the fact that I didn't exactly pay attention to his jumps, but whatever, at least we did somehow complete the first world. Yeah, because you know, the first world is very easy, especially that we've already experienced this before, so... And also something's worth noting for is about the fact that, well, there's actually a unique feature to this version of the game. Well, it only happens whenever you do manage to complete everything in the main story mode. That, we'll explain more details about that once we finish World 8. So, for now, looks like Mighty's gonna get himself the letter from the princess. Specifically, Princess Peach, or Princess Toadstool as what still calls it that. And, relatively speaking, he got himself a P-Wing, so... And what's cool about this is though, is that once you finish the world, it says perfect clear. Which meaning you obviously completed every single levels in the world, and also you do have the option to save. So either way, let's go and save our progress here. And also I just realized that in the beginning portion of this Let's Play might took a bit longer compared to the forms of how it does it on the other two versions of Super Mario Bros. 3 I just realized. Oh yeah, because every single Super Mario Advance games now also includes the intro cutscenes this time. Well, at least if you manage to start the game off. Like, for instance, in Super Mario Advance 1, which usually features Super Mario Bros. 2, aka Super Mario USA, I really do love the actual transition between, you know, the Game Boy's resolution, and then it's somehow switched over to the Game Boy Advance ratio, which is actually a pretty cool touch. And then in Super Mario Advance 2 Super Mario World, I think it actually incorporates the intro cutscene of what the adventure has begun, and also say applies with this game right here, Super Mario Advance 4 Super Mario Bros. 3. Now I'm pretty sure in Super Mario Advance 3 Yoshi's Island, I think it remains the same compared to the forms of how it does on the Super Nintendo version, aside from the fact that with this, you know, charming, music alike. Even though despite the fact that for certain visuals might tend to be washed out at points on the Game Boy Advance port of the forms of certain games alike. So either way, let's just go ahead and deal with this card flipping game as always. So either way, I've got myself my glorious Fire Flower to start things off, which is actually pretty cool. And I somehow didn't get anything aside from the Fire Flower, but oh well, no big deal. So I wonder if I can able to actually get this right. Oh, I messed it up. Oh well. No big deal, no big deal, but at the very least I can able to get on to level 2 now. And also, as far as you might as well know, about the fact the matter is though, that relatively speaking, that when it comes to the 10th anniversary of some things coming up for it, for later on this month, which there are, Mario Party Island Tour for the 3DS, specifically the North Americans release of the game, and on top of that, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic Season 4, that's also going to be on its 10th anniversary as well, and also The Legend of Zelda A Link Between Worlds for the 3DS, and also PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and especially notable with most notably Super Mario 3D World on the Wii U version on the North American release of the game, expecting to able to become 10 years old and doing it later on this month. So because of that, pretty excited able to actually celebrate those things at once. So yeah, I was thinking about the same thing, bro, because relatively speaking, from what I've heard, those things are really cool. Yeah, I know that. Especially that about the fact that, because I do remember that Sonic did told me once about the fact that they were originally trying to get the PlayStation 4 back in 2013, but of course about the fact that we didn't in the end because we somehow wait for the price drop, and on top of that the model has been announced with the forms of the Slim model until 2016 rolls around, and most notably the Kingdom Hearts games were expected to become on the PlayStation 4 back in the day. So either way though, because chances are though, you know, we always been hyped about the forms of every single Kingdom Hearts games by that point, so yeah, that's exactly what I was going to be thinking about it anyway, so okay, so it appears to be a dead end, so I almost first thought it was going to be like an endless room, but it turns out there was actually a wall blocking the actual the path. Which I suppose it doesn't matter to you though, Mighty, because you're about to take on Boom Boom in the easiest way imaginable. However though, about the fact the matter is though, is about the fact that once you defeat Boom Boom, it now actually says level cleared, as opposed to the forms of how it does on the Super Nintendo and the NES versions, that basically though it just says nothing. So either way, aside from your time bonus multiplier, so, and while I'm at it, I'm actually going to be going on to the flipping card game again. So hopefully I might as well get myself some good rewards, like 10 coins bonus. Or 1-up. Nah, that's not it. What about... oh, Starman. There's a 1-up chest in there! Darn. Oh well, at least I'll get myself another item. In one of those toad houses. And thank you for giving me a better item with the Fire Flower. So now I actually have 2 Fire Flowers with me, so I should be okay as it goes by. So, yeah, you do realize about the fact that the screen decides to able to scroll a bit. Especially because, like I said before, this is obviously going to be screen crunch, so you can't really tell what's up ahead. So, yeah, that could be a problematic, especially noticeable if you're trying to do with leaps of faith, or in some cases some very tricky platforms you have to come across into, so, but I'm sure we'll try to get used to it, because out of all the actual Super Mario Advance games we somehow managed to able to adore and play, that honestly, Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3 is by far the best of the Super Mario Advance games to me though, just because this particular version of the game, or to be more specifically, for those of you used to have the Wii U Virtual Console version, or nowadays the Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pack, basically though, there are some gem-packed full of content, like, aside from the fact that you come across into exactly the same game as the other 2 versions, even though, every nowadays, about the fact that, I believe on the likes of the Nintendo Wii system, there is actually gonna be, like, you know, only 2 versions of Super Mario Bros. 3, thanks to the forms of not only for its Virtual Console re-release on the NES version, but also with the Super Nintendo version, thanks to the Wii physical copy of the likes of Super Mario All-Stars as a re-release, you know, Super Nintendo title or something. So either way. And I believe on the likes of the Nintendo 3DS, it only features one version of Super Mario Bros. 3. That's what appears to be the NES version, because obviously Super Mario All-Stars was not on the new 3DS, or especially noticeable, there's no Super Mario Advance 4 Super Mario Bros. 3, because it only features Super Mario Advance 3 Yoshi's Island by the forms of the Ambassador program, I think that's what it says anyway. And on the Wii U, they obviously have, you know, all three versions of Super Mario Bros. 3 because of, you know, Super Mario All-Stars on the Wii is backwards compatible with the Wii U, so that makes this a huge bonus. And now, on the Nintendo Switch, it also now has 3 versions of Super Mario Bros. 3, all in the forms of the online services description, like, you know, on the NES, Super Nintendo, and now on the Game Boy Advance. I mean, what's next? Like, the next generation of Nintendo console or something? Oh, and also I should probably also forgot to mention about this as well, is that the actual UI display with, you know, how much lives you have, and how much time you've got left, and how much score you have, and how much coins you've been gathering, and even tells you what world you're in, is now moved to the upper point of the screen, rather than just strictly going down, unlike the forms of how it does it on the NES version and the Super Nintendo version. So, although the P meter is still relatively at the bottom portion of the screen, alongside with the forms the level panel is located. So either way though, or specifically those empty slots of the actual panels or cards. So either way, take that, Burrang bro, because I somehow got myself my glorious hammer with me. Oh, let me guess, you're trying to save up for the usual Toad houses coming up in the later worlds? Yes, exactly, I was gonna be thinking about the same thing. Aren't you expecting able to actually use that for the likes of that? You've gotta be kidding me! Why is it always mushrooms? Aw, jeez, you gotta give me something special next time. Ah, jeez, this has gone completely rigged for my luck. Oh well, I'm also able to use that anyway, so let's get into level 4 for me. But, yeah, that's as far as I can usually just try to say in terms of the forms of Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3, because, well, we were expecting that originally we were going to be able to do Super Mario Advance 1 first, and then we'll hit on to Super Mario Advance 4 in the future, but, as I said before, because this game usually celebrates the 20th anniversary this year, because, you know, we're now on 2023 after all, still, well, almost exactly at the end of 2023 to be exact, because, you know, we've only just got about, at this point, 2 months left until 2024 is on its way. And because of that though, we are very excited to see what 2024 has to offer. But that will be the discussion for the later day, because relatively speaking, it's a bit too early to decide. But either way, oh wow, I got myself a Starman card, or panel, in this game as what it attempts to call it. Thanks to that particular Burrang bro just almost struck against me. But hey, at least I somehow accomplished that. And I do better need to get some more lives eventually though, because relatively speaking, you did somehow manage to get 10 lives, I realized, and oh really? That stupid chain jump just caught me off guard. Jeez, man. Oh yeah, and I do remember about the fact that, well, relatively speaking, I do remember that time where, basically though, we seemed able to actually stumble across into ourselves. I think Sonic did actually tell me about this as well, that basically we used to have the very first capture card that would appear to be Easy Cap, even though it's a bit outdated right now, just because of all that popularity when it comes to the forms of not only for certain capture cards alike, but also about the fact the matter is though, that even though it's kind of difficult to explain, because I know for a fact it's been quite a few days since I actually mentioned something related to capture card devices here and there, so... Oh, jeez, that was so close. I almost gonna die by the forms of that Goomba, or even that Koopa Troopa right there. Oh, did you know about the fact that usually back in the forms of in the 90s or something, that basically Super Mario Bros. 3 did somehow manage to able to get promoted for the likes of the forms of the McDonald's Happy Meal back in the forms of in the early 90s or something? Oh, really? Just before when we got the Super Mario McDonald's Happy Meal, like, you know, with the modern installments or something, like, roughly 3 times. Whatever when Mario did actually explain to me about this. Yes, exactly. And on top of that, with the forms of the Mario movie Happy Meal, toys as well, despite the fact that the UK version doesn't seem to able to get ourselves some plastic toys, so instead we got ourselves the actual cardboard cutouts for certain parts of the film. So because of that though, kind of unfortunate to me though, but that's just the way how it goes, I guess. So either way, now it's time for me to take on a pyramid level, in some cases like a maze pyramid level. But honestly though, we've already done this before, so either way though, we can expect that we'll be able to accomplish that, no problem. So, although until eventually in World 3 and onwards though, it gets a bit difficult at points, especially because not only do we have to go for the exactly same levels again, but also we now need to deal with the forms of most of those levels with screen crunch, which meaning we can't see what's going to be up ahead, or in some cases top to bottom, and you name the rest, so... But, yeah, I think, relatively speaking, when it comes to the Wii U Virtual Console re-release versions of Super Mario Advance games, I think Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3, is the only, one we did somehow got for the likes of the Wii U Virtual Console re-release versions, because obviously it includes the e-reader levels, which will sure enough will show this off, enjoying the later portions throughout the majority of the game itself. So because of this, though, relatively speaking, about the fact of the matter is, though, that, well, I think that's as far as I can talk about, because again, that we've already explained about the forms of Super Mario Bros. 3 multiple times through our channel, and as I said before, as far as I promised you guys, this will be the final time playing Super Mario Bros. 3, but I couldn't help it for myself how enjoyable this game can be, especially nowadays you can now able to actually play 3 versions of Super Mario Bros. 3 onto your Nintendo Switch now, well, assuming of course about the fact that you do need to able to, you know, activate the subscription for your Nintendo Switch for online functionalities, but either way, that might be saying something. So, there we go, the pyramid level's completed, and now it's your turn, Mighty, to take on once again, the airship level. So, yeah, that'll be my lucky thing for my part, but first off, I need to go ahead and grind for more extra lives, because you, somehow get ahead of me when it comes to extra lives, and I somehow, once again, didn't get any 1-ups at all, because, relatively speaking though, I just keep on messing up with the timing, so... Yeah, I will admit though, the timing when it comes to the slot machine feels a bit weird at times, but I'm sure enough though, that we're still able to actually guarantee to get some more extra lives by then, so... And I should probably also mention about this as well, is about the fact that speaking of that particular conversation with that Toad right there, basically there's actually another exclusive feature in this game, and that's what appears to be about the fact that if you do manage to able to complete World 8 first, and if you go back to the previous worlds again, basically you're able to actually stumble across into a secret cutscene. That basically though, if you see that exclamation mark on that speech bubble, that actually represents that you haven't exactly done with the Koopaling by that point. And if I recall correctly, if you do manage to able to complete, let's just say one of those worlds without completing any level, then basically though it just says clear, and it doesn't give you a little bit of a awesome fanfare music in the background. I think that's what it says anyway. Well, despite the fact it's been, you know, a very long time since we actually last played, not only for the likes of Super Mario Bros. 3, because obviously we've already played the Super Nintendo version, but it's been a very long time since I actually experienced the Game Boy Advance version since the physical cartridge version, because I know for a fact that we technically already completed that game on the original cartridge version of the game. Oh, dang, that bullet bill just caught me off guard. And yeah, we're about to deal with the next Koopaling, which appears to be Morton Koopa Jr. So, because of all that visuals and all that stuff, which, honestly, because, you know, this boss fight is also too easy. Well, the only challenging part is the way how they move, but apart from those side things, though, you deal with him no problem. And also something tells me about the fact that this won't be the only time we're going to be doing with those Koopalings, because we might come across into quite a few of those Koopalings quite a few times, until whenever we get to World E. Oh yes, because, again, we'll explain more details about the World E world until specifically later on throughout the majority of the game. So either way, World 2 is done. So either way, and now we move on to World 3. And I think we'll do the exactly the same premise from the likes of the Super Nintendo version of that Let's Play of Super Mario Bros. 3, and sure enough, you got yourselves a cloud which allows you to skip any of those levels, including the tower levels, essentially. So, perfect clear for World 2. So, either way, let's save our game, and we'll pretty much get the endings off this point right here. So join us next time for more Let's Play of Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3. That is about the fact that we'll move on to World 3, known as Waterland or Seaside. So I'll see you guys until then. Later, fellas. Later, dudes.